Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me King Kanyini. Hey King, how are you?
I am doing amazing, and it's a blessing and an honor to be here on the show with you.
I am so excited to get into this too, and we'll talk about your book and some different things. But I went to look up your book, and I'm like, that is a really cool cover. But the inside is even more interesting. So we'll just get into that. But before we do, I want to read your bio just so people know who you are.
Okay.
So Christopher King Kanyini Benson is an executive director and co-founder of the Warrior Sanctuary Org, a health coach, managing director at a successful financial institution, Breathmaster, Reiki practitioner, and DJ and producer. He studied for decades with some of the greatest teachers around the world to distill his ancient wisdom into an inspiration manual that for the curious and courageous will unlock your superpowers within. Whether it's through conscious breath work, holistic healing, or transformational retreats, his mission is to help others awaken and activate their natural genius gifts by living with inner peace and an unbridled passion and purpose of service. So you have done a lot of different things in your young life. So just start wherever you want to start. Tell us how this all started and how you got to be doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you for that. And when I hear that, I was like, wow, I've really crossed a lot of different things. And I think people probably wouldn't guess that I started as, a jock. I played football. I was lucky enough and blessed enough to be able to go to Princeton and play football there with my brother. We were a year apart, and I remember I had just rolled my ankle playing in practice, and if you're an athlete and an injury happens, especially spraining an ankle, you kind of know like, okay, this is going to take a week to heal. And it was one of those injuries where I was like, this is not going to go well at all. And I had a friend who was writing her thesis on Reiki, which is energy healing, and she was like, "Do you want me to give Reiki on your ankle?" And where I am now, I think people would be like, "Oh yeah, he was like into that." I was so much like I was like, "This is a hoax. You can't just heal my ankle." But I'll try anything at that point, right? Because I knew icing it was just gonna, I was gonna be in pain the next day, and it was tryouts, so like for the season and stuff like that. So I really wanted to perform at my best, and I felt something. I felt this warmth, and I felt like it was, I definitely thought, I was like, "Are you doing something crazy?" And she was like, she literally was just, she put some signs on a piece of paper, put it underneath my foot, and then started doing some other things. And then she was like, "Well, I can also send you Reiki during practice." And I was like, "They're not going to allow you on the practice field. I don't know what you're talking about." She says, "No, you tell me where it is, the time, and I will send you energy for that time and space." Then I was like, okay, this is definitely a hoax. There's no way you can do that. And sure enough, the next day at practice, I didn't feel any pain at all. And it opened my mind to it, which is interesting, being an engineer, which is all about energy and energy transfer and thermodynamics, not understanding that we as humans also carry energy in our thoughts, also have power as well. And it was like a whole quantum physics space that I got into. And so that was my door opening. And then I graduated Princeton, ended up working in different fields, ended up finding my way onto finance, and just started, to be honest, killing myself. Like I was working myself to the bone. I was trying to create a life for my family. We can get into it, but I dealt with a lot of trauma. I lost my brother, lost my sister, my dad lost basically his six brothers and sister throughout his life, and it was just pain. And for me, seeing my dad barely being able to pay rent, seeing the stress of growing up as a black man in South Central LA, with the riots and all those things, and having that weight on him, being framed for sexual harassment and then being acquitted, but never being able to escape that, almost losing his teacher's license. All of these things I just saw weighing on him, and it weighed on me as well. So what I was focused on was making enough money so that my dad didn't have to worry about paying rent. And once I got there, then it was creating enough life for my brother and my sister not have to worry about money as well. So as I kept putting myself through this experience of pain and suffering, I wasn't actually healing myself through it. So I got to what I thought was the pinnacle of success, you know, being a black man working in finance where there was not many people that looked like me, nor that was supporting me, being able to find other gamers. So other thing is, I love video games. That was like the one thing I'd work myself to the bone, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was playing video games. That was the way that I de-stressed, and it was cheaper than a lot of other things that people do. um, but at some point, I almost died. I was got into motorcycles. I got really good at motorcycles, and then I don't want to go into too deep of it on here because it was pretty gruesome. But I was going 100 miles an hour on the turnpike, in New Jersey Turnpike. We're going to Six Flags. It was supposed to be this fun day. It was with me and three of my other friends. We were all riding our motorcycles, and I got a little cocky. I was trying to split lanes between two cars, and the other car next to me started speeding up, so it closed the gap. And in that moment, I realized that I had to crash my motorcycle in order to live. If I tried to like speed up and go the gap, I literally saw all this happen instantaneously, that I would fly off my motorcycle and not make it. And so what happened was is I put the brakes on the bike, and how this works. So your front wheel on the bike is here, and if this is the car that I'm running into, if I hit it, even though I'm braking, I'm gonna high side, and I'm gonna turn into a projectile, and your chances of living after that drop to like 10-20%. And if you do live, you're a vegetable. So what happened was is I literally I pulled in the clutch, let go of the brake, so flattened the bike out, hit the car. My bike went sideways, and I rolled about 200 yards. And I have some scars here, but the biggest one was here where I slid, but no broken bones. And I don't know whether people believe in angels or not. I saw my body go through the experience, and I saw an angel wrap its wings around my body and protect me. And again, 200 rolling 200 yards, no broken bones. I walked away from the accident. At least my body did. It took me about 2 years to heal. The thing that got me through it, though, funny enough, was playing video games, because I couldn't move. So it was the one thing that kind of helped bring me joy. And I literally took time to realize, I was like, all right, why am I still here? My best friend's dad literally 2 weeks later died going 30 miles an hour on a motorcycle because he wasn't wearing a helmet. Why am I still here? And so that took me on this journey within shamanism and understanding how to heal myself, that unlocked so much for me, and eventually created this book because it was all this wisdom that I had. I was like, I want to share it with other people and combine it with the other thing that I love that got me through it, which was video games. So that's what created Life, the Ultimate Video Game. It is a pretty cool cover though.
Yeah. So when you were going through that experience, did you have a video game that was your favorite one?
Whew, a couple, but mostly the genre was RPGs, so role-playing games. And these are basically games where you get to create your own character, and you have these skill trees. So you have agility, dexterity, strength, intelligence, wisdom, fortitude, and all of these are create the character that best represents you in your own video game. And then you get to, you put work in towards certain areas, you gain experience points, you get to put those experience points towards those things, you get new skills that stack on top of each other. So it was a way for me to escape life a little bit, like giving me that little respite when life got too hard, or I was dealing with a client that was too stressful, or I had to go out and stay out at night and like put myself in compromising positions just to try to make my dreams come true. It was the thing that helped me kind of like, okay, everything is okay. And also, I got to be the hero. I got to be the hero that saved a princess or saved the universe or all these things, which to me helped me tell myself that I could also be the savior for my dad or be the savior for my brother and sister, that the bad things that happened in my life didn't necessarily have to happen in the game, and that there could be a happy ending.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm seeing so much of you here in the things that you do as you continue on because you have a heart for people.
Mhm.
So much so that you were even at that point sacrificing yourself for others. And I always tell people, you want to love yourself first, take care of yourself first, and then from there serve, from a full bucket. But it
Yeah,
sounds to me like you came to a point where you were just like serving and serving and serving, but not taking care of you. So
correct.
when did that switch over? When did you realize, hey, I need to start taking care of me?
Mm. That's a very good question, and I wish everybody had this realization. Sooner, what happened was is I met the love of my life. Um, that usually helps people realize like the flaws, like that loving mirror that will hold you dear. And when I met her, it was, I mean, this is a very, very like romantic story, and I'm not sure if you remember this. I'm a little bit aging myself, but the Mary Tyler Moore show, the opening credits where it has, she's walking across the street, it's like you're gonna make it after all, and the sun's coming through and like hitting her, and she's turning sideways. So I had that moment with my wife. It was our first date, and we were in New York, and I had the place where she was coming. Meaning, like I was sitting facing out of the restaurant, and so I saw the crosswalk. I knew she was going to be walking, and it had just been raining, and the sun was coming through, and she was holding an umbrella, and I saw her, and I was just like, "This is the woman of my dreams." And through the day and everything that happened, like we touched hands, and it was like I saw our lives like fast forwarding and us having a family and living happily ever after. Uh, but the message was that I needed to be completely raw and honest with who I was with her in order to be the man that she needed. And I was, and I had a very colorful past. And if on a first date a man is giving you like his heart on a platter, and it's not the perfect background, but you can see his honesty, most people would tell them to run.
Obviously, she didn't run.
She
She's
did
still there.
not, no, and there was a lot of beautiful coincidences, synchronicities. I talk about synchronicities a lot in my book because that's the way of the universe kind of reminding us that we're on the right path, even if it feels dangerous or treacherous. And through that relationship, fast forward 2 years, I'm preparing to propose to her, and I we had never really had a fight. It had been just literally beautiful moments. Even the first selfie that we took together, it was hard to look at because we saw it and was like, our 2 weeks in, I was like, I think we're gonna get married, but like we just started dating. Nobody wanted to say it. Um, so by the time I was gonna propose to her, I started picking fights with her. And I think it was a combination of things like giving too much. But a lot of what I realized is my giving was actually my own ego, telling me that I could be the savior, and that I needed to be the person protecting everybody when I was forgetting a big part of the equation, which is God and the universe, whatever you believe in. We're not alone. And to think that I had to do everything, that I was the person that was going to save, I'm the Neo or the one, was a lot of ego. And so I realized through that process, I was like, I have to understand what is going on. It was like a shadow. We were talking about shadow work. It was really a shadow that was coming up and basically like tripping me. Um, and I remember it was a conversation. We were in uh, upstate New York, and we were, having just, it was during COVID, so we just needed a weekend to get away from the city. And I was picking fights with her up there, and the next morning I was like, babe, I think we're falling apart. And she looked at me dead in the eye and said, no, you're falling apart. I'm fine.
And how did you take that?
um, I was like, I need to figure out what's going on because our July 5th is our anniversary. So I wanted to propose on our 2 year anniversary. So there was a hard date there. And I was like, I have to figure this out before I propose because she might say no. She probably should if this is where I'm at and I don't have an answer of understanding it. And so we were doing shamanic training at that time. Are you familiar with shamanism?
No, well, other people who listen might not know anything about it. So why don't you say what it is?
That's a good point. So shamanism, it comes from the Siberian word, a keeper of the fire. And there are shamans in every culture across the globe, and they are effectively keeper of the fire, means the holder of the wisdom of the community. If you think about, at night, right? If the fire is on, then everybody feels safe. And so they take the experiences and they work with the elements of fire, earth, water, and air, and space. That's the fifth element, to help people see the mirrors that are their breadcrumbs that are leading them back to who they are. And a lot of those breadcrumbs are trauma. Sometimes they're big blocks of big chunks of bread or a big mirror. And so my wife and I were practicing that to help people see themselves as a way to obviously be in service. And after one of the classes, I was asking about plant medicine, because I think when people hear about shamanism, they think, different plant medicines as well. And that's kind of like the concert, or like the main, like, you practice shamanism, so at some point you can sit with plant medicine. And there are different plant medicines. There's tobacco by itself is super healing, eucalyptus, guayusa, like all these different elements. And then there's also, the psychoactive ones as well. And so I was curious about that because I'd been studying shamanism so I could sit with plant medicine, so I could start to heal the deep, deep trauma within me. And I talk about this in my book, but effectively, healing our inner child, like that inner child work, is the thing that helps us really return home. We come in innocent, and then the world tells us that we need to protect ourselves. And wisdom is moving through the trauma and coming back to our inner child, seeing the lessons behind the trauma and understanding that the trauma isn't good nor bad. It just is. It's part of our pathway. And so what happened is I asked about plant medicine. Oh, sorry. So gaming analogy. I'll do these a lot. So effectively, the reason why I got into shamanism was because if you sit with plant medicine, you can get fast forwarded to level 100. But what if you don't have the skills to actually understand what's happening? You'll still have an experience, and you'll still come back to yourself, and you'll still process it. But for me, I guess as a gamer, I wanted to get as much experience from that journey as possible. So that's why I started to do shamanism, so I could get the skills. So if I sat with plant medicine, I could see all the lessons, take it back with me, and level up more than just 10 levels. I could level up 50 levels. I get closer. I might be here, go here, come back to here, and then level up to here, because I was able to take more lessons from this experience. Whereas if I only took a little bit, I might just do a little level up, right? And so this is all culminating into a very beautiful experience for my wife, not for me. Because we both, so I found someone who was offering a plant medicine during that period of time. And again, this is probably like T minus 12 days to proposal. And we both go into this experience, and it's at night in the city, in this loft in Midtown. And it feels like a movie or a video game, where like the sun is going down, the shaman is like, doing the introduction, and we thank the directions north, south, east, west, and the elements to help set a container for a safe experience. And thunder starts coming in, lightning starts coming down, it starts to rain. And like right before, she was like, and everybody come and sit up in the circle for the medicine. We literally just like, like, and everybody was like, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, all that energy.
all the energy. And I took my cup, and Zyra took her cup, and we both were sitting down, and she literally just like like how bright you are, she just was a star. And that's who she always was. And why I fell in love with her was because she'd gone through so much trauma in her life, but she always took care of people. Like, you would have thought that she was brought up in the best household possible. She had a business in high school before she was 14. She helped raise her sister. And it was just that her parents just had so much trauma that happened to them at a young age that they had to deal with their own trauma. They couldn't be there for her. And so that was who she was. She just remembered she wasn't the negative energy or the things that people put on her throughout her life. And we'll get into a little bit later, but she ended up developing some chronic illnesses like lupus from all of that. but I saw her light up and I was like, that's so beautiful. My journey, I saw my sister, my dad commit suicide. I saw like, it was like just a downward spiral of this ego. And I saw that it was control that was keeping me from being able to actually be me. And only fast forward the next day, Zyra is just like floating around and I'm like dragging myself through. And she's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, I don't know, leave me alone. And I was like, I still can't propose to her. It's like T minus 10 days. And I'm further away from my goal than when I started. And so I realized I was like, I have to go all in. And it was like a boss level. I was like, I have to do a one-on-one session with the shaman. I have to let go of the things the one good thing from that first session is I figured out the four pillars that was keeping me from being me. It was control, unbalanced ego, shame and guilt from all the things that had done before. And I can't remember the fourth one off the top of my head, but those were the three main ones. And then there was a fourth one that was tied to a lot of that as well, right? Like shame and guilt keeps us in this cycle of not being able to forgive ourselves. And I talk about in the book too, shame and guilt also is the lowest form of emotions. So it actually drains us of so much energy, which is why when people finally just let go of that one thing, they light up so much because they're able to transmute that energy from energy that's holding them back to energy that's now lifting them up. And so I went into this session and with the shaman, and again, there wasn't any lightning this time. But I'm sitting in the ceremony. I'm sitting here and the shaman's here, and I'm sitting like lotus pose, or kind of. My legs didn't really do that at that moment. And she said, okay, these are four pieces of paper. I want you to write down the four things you need to burn to be who you are. And then when you're ready, put them into the fire. So drank the medicine. I sat there, and the word that came to me immediately was control. I was like, your control is like blocking everything from coming to you. And so I was like, okay. But then I'm like, in my mind, I'm like seeing like, Mr. Miyagi and like the Karate Kid. And I was like, I'm always jumping out. I'm always, action first and not being reserved. So I was like, no, I have to let it come to me. Like the paper would like magically lift up and like tell me which one it is. And I'm talking about this book. I thought it was like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I learned that the shaman was literally walking around me for like an hour, waiting for me to move or do something. And then I heard this thing. It says, you first must let go of controlling everything around you, and then you can take full control of yourself. And it was in that moment I realized it wasn't everything was coming from me trying to control things. I was trying to control the bad things from not happening. And when that didn't happen, then again, as I was talking about before, I would feel guilty, and then that guilt would then draw me down, and then I would do an action that would then hurt people, and that was the downward spiral. And as soon as I threw it in the fire, I felt this like, ooh, like I just lit up, and then realizing that, yeah, like just like you said, like you can't pour from an empty cup. I had to let go of worrying about everything happening outside of me, and then I'd be able to tap into the infinite power within me. And that was in that moment I also realized I was going to propose to my wife. You've been proposed to, obviously, you're married. And that moment is supposed to be a private moment between you and the person dear to you. I was DJing on Twitch at the time, which is a online platform. So I was DJing because it's COVID and nobody could do anything. So that was my way of community building. And I would DJ and she would do yoga on camera. And so I thought it would be cool if I called all of our family and friends on a private Zoom channel that she thought was like my normal show or our normal show. And in the middle of her doing like a downward dog where she wasn't looking, I would like pull the ring out, and with her like yoga clothes on and all sweaty, she'd look up and I'd be like, would you marry me, in front of all of the people that we know? I was like, she might actually say no. Just out of like not
I was
knowing.
gonna say I might say no.
Yeah, like it was like I'm all sweaty and wet. And so after I saw myself in that ceremony, I realized I was like, oh my gosh. And so I realized what I needed to do was to propose to her in a private setting in nature, which is how I wanted to. And then the guilt right? The guilt started coming up of like, well, I already got all these people coming, and what happens if I tell them, like, how am I going to do that? And it was like, that's the ego, that's you trying to control. Everything will be okay. Also, why not surprise them,
Mhm.
right? They're thinking they're going to be the ones in on the surprise. Actually, I proposed to her before the show. She said yes. I had a good friend of mine his wife who's a photographer come. We're in Central Park around our favorite trees, and we're just sitting there. And my friend's wife, who's a photographer, has this big afro, and so she's like hiding behind a bush, taking pictures, hiding behind the bush, taking pictures. But he shouldn't realize that every time she moved, this big afro was moving left and right. And I'm talking to Zyra, and she's like, "Is that Anna over there?" And I was like, "Anna who? Anna, what are you talking about?" And I looked over. I was like, "Oh, I can't. No, yeah." I was like, "You guys can come out. It's fine." And then I made something up. I was like, "Oh, you said you wanted some photos and videos. We didn't have them, so I just asked them to come up so we can take some." And as they were like getting her attention, taking video, she turned around and I was on. I got down on both knees. Please, please. It was a super, super beautiful moment. And I'd say that like after that, that's when like the Warrior Sanctuary was born. And we realized that it was our love that was the magic in these ceremonies. That it was our love that was meant to really make that difference and not just like change our hearts and heal us, but also through us healing, it also helps to heal the world around us.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. Now
Thank
you
you.
talked earlier about Zyra actually getting a chronic disease and how you went through that. So what you want to talk about that?
I am happy to. She's also on her healing journey healing journey of this and also sharing it. So I will share as much as she's as open, but really a lot of it so she had developed lupus, and for people who don't know who lupus is, it can happen. It can affect you in different ways. But it affects the blood, and for her, it affected it in a way that it was creating blood clots. So then you take medicine to thin the blood. The downside is that if you have blood thinners and your blood doesn't clot, if you have a cut, then you could bleed out depending on where the cut is. So then they advise you that you can't be active. And her and I, we love hiking and being super, super active. So she just was like, I'm going to do what I need to do and also take my meds. And um, there was one evening in the very beginning when we started dating and thinking about it, it's like it does bring pain because I'd met the woman of my dreams and found out that like she may not be able to have kids, found out that she had this disease, and she didn't know how long she would live and those things. And it was just like, this is, and this was the ego at the time, because this isn't real, this is like making it about me. I was like, of course the woman of my dreams, this would happen because of like the pain that I've caused in the past. This is my own, and so I made that like dedication early on. I was like, I would do anything to take away her pain. And that's the hero thing, right? Like, I'll do anything to take away the pain. I'll do anything to take away the pain. And so about 3 weeks, 4 weeks into us dating, where she's going through an episode, and what it feels like from her point of view is when you're having an episode with lupus with the blood, it literally feels like your body's turning into cement from the inside out. So there's just pain everywhere. And she called the hospital, and they were like, "Well, deal with it." It's like, "Are you dying?" She was like, "I feel like it, but I know I'm not in this moment dying." Like, "Okay, well, good luck." It's like, "Come see us tomorrow" or something. And like, there wasn't. It's not a life threatening emergency. And so we used our shamanic practices. I took a crystal, I put it over where the pain was, and we fell asleep like, little spoon, big spoon. And I just remember repeating over and over, "I would do anything to take away your pain. I would do anything to take away your pain. I'd do anything to take away your pain." And I dropped into this like dream where I was like a storm, and I was like flying through the storm, and there was this ship that was in the middle of the ocean that was just like getting thrown around by the waves. And I like landed in on the top of the boat like Captain Jack Sparrow, and I was like, I but bursted in through the door, and she was laying on the bed just like writhing in pain, like when I was cuddling her. But when I opened the door, it literally, like, she looked up and looked at me, and I was looking at her. And I'm not sure if you've ever had a lucid dream before, where you can tell when you're the only person in the dream, but you can also tell when, like, that's another person in my dream. And so we both woke up, and we both looked at each other. Like, she turned around, and I was like, did you just see that I was in here? And she's like, did you just see? I just saw. Wait. And like, we went completely forgetting that she's going through this episode, just super excited that we just seen each other in a dream. And so then we both had made this pact, like, we're gonna go back to sleep and we're gonna go drop into the same dream. And sure enough, went back in, same part of the dream. I remember, like, taking the things that was causing her pain and just like leaving the ship and just going out as far as I could in the ocean, just trying to like get it away from her. I should have let it go. I don't remember letting it go. Uh, and she woke up the next morning and she said all she remembers was like holding my hand, walking on the beach, and the sun was shining and everything was safe. I woke up, and again, I'll keep it. I don't know how many, the PG-13 or whatever, but I had to go to the bathroom. And as soon as I sat down, I was in the most excruciating pain I've ever been in my entire life. And I started feeling sorry for myself. I was like, oh, like, what is happening? And then that voice in my head has said, you said you'd do anything to take away your pain. Uh, are you willing to go through what you're going through now to take away her pain, or were you just talking? And I was like, be careful what you ask for. Also, yes, I would be willing to do anything, and I would really be great if I could release this pain as well, so none of us have to be in this. And so I passed the pain, which means that it took me. I literally I told Zara, I was like, hey Zara, like, go to work. I'm gonna be late. This is gonna take a while. She's like, what are you doing? And sure enough, like, it came out. It felt like it was like the size of that ship, and it was, again, I'll just keep it. It was like a toothpick, super, super, super jet black toothpick. And it was like, this was the pain. And she never, after that episode, like, she never had an episode like that again. And she went through more of her own healing process. Like, that was the beginning where we also realized, like, we were super close. But that was the beginning also of her healing it. So between plant medicine ceremonies, healing the trauma with her mom, healing the trauma with her dad, healing the trauma with her, a lot of other things are around that. One day, this is probably about a year and a half, 2 years later, she stopped. I noticed her medicine was not being taken, and I was like, "Are you taking your medicine anymore?" She's like, "Oh no, I'm healed of that." I was like, intuition is very strong with her. Spirit is very strong with her. I've learned not to question those things when it comes up. Like, the woman's intuition really is an incredible thing. That I was like, okay, so can we go get your blood tested? Because, like, if it's gone, it's gone. And if we get the blood tested and it doesn't come back, then you know that it's gone, like, without a shadow of a doubt. She didn't do it. And about 6 months later, she's like playing with our cats and like playing hide and go seek. And she ducked the wrong way and hit her head on a table and got a concussion. And this is relevant because what happens when you get, have you ever had a concussion?
No.
Okay, good. That's a good thing. But what happens when a concussion happens is that your brain needs time to rest, and especially if you look at computers a lot, when your brain is trying to rest, it can strain it. And so for her, she works in tech and computers all the time. The doctors told her you have to lay down, so she laid down for about 48 hours straight, just like meditating and letting everything heal. And then we had a trip planned out to Las Vegas for a client thing. So she gets up after not moving for that much, gets on a plane, changes her elevation, and on the flight back, she is like, I think I have a blood clot. Her calf is tightening up, and that's where a lot of blood clots happen. Now, blood clots are dangerous because if the blood clot loosens and then goes into your heart, it can cause a heart attack. And so I'm just like, I was like, do I send it Reiki? She's like, I don't think you send it Reiki, because if you break it up and then it goes into my heart, that's obviously more of a problem. So like, okay, so she goes to the hospital. They're doing the whole ultrasound to try and find the blood clot. And they're like, there's no there's no blood clot here. And she's like, I know the symptoms. Like, I saw it too. She had like symptoms like it's like you start to see the blood in the veins because it's getting clogged. I saw that. I was like, there's no blood clot. She took the ultrasound machine, was like doing it on herself, and she was like, there's no blood clot. Huh. So they're like, well, do your blood work. They also reprimanded her, obviously, for not taking her medicine. And so when she was telling me, I was like, I think there's this thing called like phantom pain. So the body, like if you, it works both ways. Like if you have a limb that's cut off, a person will have pain almost like the limb is still there. And it's phantom because what the brain thinks is real, you'll feel it in your body. And so my hypothesis was is that her lupus had healed, but her physical body didn't know that, and so her physical body was in an environment where if you don't move for 48 hours and then you change elevation, your blood is going to move in a way it's going to be traumatic, and so you could get a blood clot that way. So the body was going through the motions of what it thought would be a blood clot, and to support this, she got the blood test. We were waiting, like literally, like waiting for the test to come back. No lupus in her blood at all. Completely
Oh,
gone. Yeah.
beautiful. So beautiful. Wow.
Thank you
So
for
just
asking and share. I'm happy to share that because it's a reminder that anybody listening to this podcast, like I talk about it in the book, The Five Bodies of Consciousness. That there's a book called Quantum Doctor by Dr. Goswami that talks about this, and anything in the body that ends up in the physical space happens initially somewhere, whether it's in your spiritual body or your emotional body or your supermental body, and it starts to express itself physically. And if we heal the supermental or the mental or the emotional body, then it will also heal it in the physical body. Sometimes we focus so much on healing the physical without doing the emotional or spiritual work at the same time.
so let's talk about your book and what's in your book. And if you want to show that again so everybody can see that really cool cover. It's a very
Yeah,
cool cover.
yeah,
I
it's
love that cover.
I'll
So talk
do.
about what's in that book. What are they going to find when they read it?
Huh. Well, so this is it did not. This is about 300 pages, and it's an instruction manual. So you take it as it's meant to be taken at your own pace. There aren't chapters in it. There are levels, and within each level, there are 2 to 3 different missions or quests. And so that's what you'll find. And we start with something simple, right? I think meditation becomes this thing where it's like I can't meditate, and I understand. When I started, I was horrible. When I started playing football or wakeboarding or skiing or snowboarding, I was pretty bad at that too. And I think sometimes we expect to drop into something and be good. Do you meditate at all, or do breath work or those things? There's like it's super powerful, right? Like once you kind of get
It's
into it,
super powerful. It's so
yeah.
balancing and centering and
Yeah. And so centering is a great word because when we are centered, then we're able to control ourselves in the game of life. And before I think some people's like, I'm not a gamer. You may not play video games. I think there's a lot of people that do play video games. I think I did like the math. It's like 5 billion people play video games. Different types of games. Obviously, some people play solitaire. Some people play on their phone. Some people have a console and play RPGs, or Call of Duty, which is like not my thing. But but what happens is that if you are somebody who expects to put effort into something and get an outcome, a positive outcome, or learn something or grow from that, if you're aware that you have weaknesses or strengths, and if you're a little bit curious about life and how to level up faster, then in my astute opinion, you're a life gamer. And being able to, the book is an inspiration manual to give you those skills and those tools to be able to level up yourself in life through learning how to take a deep breath in and take a deep breath out. And that's where we start. We start with just simple, can you count and can you breathe? Do you know what breathing into the nose is and being able to breathe into your belly and using that to center yourself? Do you want to take a breath with me real quick?
yes.
Okay. Have you ever done a physiological sigh?
Just show us.
Okay, all right. So physiological side, Dr. Huberman talks about this, and I love it. Is you are doing a double inhale into your nose, first into your belly, and then second, you're going to expand your chest with the second inhale. And then you just let out with a sigh, and you want to kind of let the vibration drop down your body. And that's our natural body's way of releasing stress. So if you're feeling high stress or high anxiety, do this 1 or 2 times, and you will feel right as rain. So first, let's just center ourselves, push all the air out of your stomach. We're going to inhale once through the nose. Now expand the chest and release. Do you want to do it one more time?
Yeah, that feels good. Okay.
All right, 3, 2, 1, breathe in. One more time. And so the concept with that is we have two parts of our autonomic nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system and our sympathetic nervous system. And it's kind of like a seesaw. Whenever you breathe in, energy is coming into the body. And so your sympathetic nervous system is activated. It's like, okay, if I need to do fight or flight or survive, I have the energy to do it. And whenever you breathe out, your body pauses and it does the things that it needs to heal, whether it's digesting, whether it's sending certain things to the body that helps it heal. And so with our every breath we're taking, we're keeping our body in homeostasis or centering our body. And when we are hyperventilating or if we're anxious, we're doing more action on the breathing in and we're not paying any attention to the exhale. And so our body is telling us, it's time for action, it's time for action, it's time for action. You do that enough times and your body produces cortisol, which is acidic, which then it does good things as far as letting us be able to kind of do, I call it be superhuman. It supercharges the body. Sympathetic system supercharges the body. But you can only supercharge it for so long before it starts to degrade. And so learning how to balance your breath or just being aware of how you're breathing is a simple way to center yourself in the game of life. And so level 1 is really just dedicated towards that, learning how to breathe. And then we go on to more fun things like elevated states of consciousness, which I refer to as the escape button. ESC, elevated states of consciousness, which allows you to kind of pause the game, hit the escape button, and observe what's actually happening, becoming the observer of your life. And so once you get that, only then do we really start getting into meditation and visualization. So that by the time that you drop into the thing that is the difficult, it's kind of like the elephant in the room. I was like, I don't really want to meditate because I don't want to be bad at something. But if you just focus on the breathing and then you listen to the experiences, then it drops you in. And that's also the cool thing about the book is it's not just a book. There's a companion app that comes along with it.
So cool. So everybody go get that book. I'm gonna go get that book. And
Yes, it's on. It's
before I
on. You can
go
get it
to
on Amazon,
level.
and it will help you level up.
Yeah, and if people want to connect with you, where do they connect with you?
They can connect with me on Instagram. So at King Kanyini Healing is my Instagram, and then we do have a YouTube channel, which is the Warrior Sanctuary, which is our nonprofit organization as well. And so the beautiful thing also is this work also goes towards our nonprofit. Fortunate enough that we still have our day jobs, and again, I do lots of different things. I wear many different hats. I DJ'd and I produced the whole app, so every mission has music, has an animated scene, so that you get to the end of a level and you're immediately dropped into this cool video that with like music that pulls you into the soundscape that makes you feel like you really are in your own game.
That is so cool.
Thank
So
you.
now I have a personal question for you.
Yes.
Gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
aside from spending every day with the love of my life, it's this what we're doing right here, like making heart-to-heart connections with people and understanding. I appreciate all the questions you're asking me. Like, I really want to also know your story as well. I know it's not necessarily what the podcast is about. I'll listen to more of your podcast to get more information. But yeah, it's making heart-to-heart connections with humans, and through that, we heal each other. You're healing yourself, I'm healing myself, but it's the interactions, us being vulnerable. And I talk about this in the book, your visa, right? Your visa is your passport to the subtle energy realm. Subtle energy realm is just the energetic realm, the unseen realm. And vulnerability is the first of those attributes. And it's being vulnerable with each other and sharing our stories and sharing our wisdom and being okay if our experiences are experiences and someone has a different experience. It's that exchange that helps us learn more. And one thing I've learned is every time I say I know something, it's closing the door for me to actually learn something from that experience. So yeah, that's what inspires me is these connections. It lights me up.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for your stories and being very vulnerable about telling those stories. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor. And thank you for also holding space for me to share those stories and feel safe and really, really grateful for you. And before I go, I do want to say like one thing from the book. Life doesn't happen to you. Life happens for you to learn from, overcome, and level up. And I'm grateful that you've created the opportunity for me to. This is my first podcast as well, so just really grateful to be able to be in this space and sharing it with you and learning from you. So I appreciate it and sending you lots of love and light for your continued leveling up process.
Well, thank you so much. So I have one more question for you, and you might have already answered it. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Aside from life happens, as life is happening for you, not to you, there is something I heard recently. And move through every experience with your excitement. And if you're unsure of which way to go in life, follow your excitement. Even if the excitement, and honestly, especially if the excitement brings you a little bit of fear, follow that. And trust in your gifts that you have everything within you that you need to accomplish your dreams, to live your dream life. And be vulnerable, be willing to be wrong, right? Like without judgment.
That is fabulous advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberley. All
We'll talk to you again soon.
right, stay blessed. Take care. Thank you for everybody that's listening as well. Sending you all love.